show you is a video. This kind of plankton are called phytoplankton. They are usually green in color. And if you take a look at the video right now, you'll see there are a lot of different kind of planktons here with different shapes. Some of them actually got cilia on their body, so to help them swim a lot. And they're usually green or brown or even yellow in color as well. Yeah, so these are the planktons that the videos that I've collected from my friends and also my colleagues here in Ocean Wise. And these are zooplanktons and also phytoplanktons. So you can see them actually in seawater as well as some fresh water as well. So try to, if you have a chance to go to the lake or even a beach when things get better, try to take a look at the seawater and also the fresh water and see what can you see inside the water. Or sometimes you might see something like these, like the planktons that I have here in the bottle. Yeah, they look really, really cool, and they have different kind of adaptations as well. So for the planktons, they're usually flat, like a paper thin, so that they can actually try to swim with their tiniest body, and they have air inside their body so that they can flow. But you know what? For those plankton, they're actually bad at swimming. So when there's big current coming over, they cannot resist this. And so they will just drift along with the water current. And that's why for plankton in other language means drifter along the currents. So for planktons, we have tiniest one, but when they grow bigger and bigger and bigger, they can actually be visible. So right now I want to show you some of the pictures that I have here for my presentation in order to let you know what kind of animals that they will become after they grow bigger and bigger, right? So this is one of the planktons that they will have the same shape and also same body structure when they grow. So I think all of you will know what this kind of animal is. So this is the jellyfish that we have here in British Columbia, and we call it the moon jelly. So for moon jelly, let me show you a video as well. Moon jelly, they are quite small, just like the size of your fingernail at the beginning when they are born. And when they're born, they're actually very small and they have the ability to swim a little bit. But after that, they will try to stick to our ground and they stay on the ground for a little while. And then try to use your finger to, try to use your hand to follow my gesture as well. So this is the ground and this is the jellyfish. And when they bloom, when they move along, and they will try to stick themselves to a ground. And then after that, they will just try to grow into some flower-like structure. This is when the jellyfish try to grow as big as they can. And they will try to grow bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And then they will bud off as an individual bigger jellyfish. And that's why when you see those life cycle of the jellyfish, they first come up with like a jellyfish-like structure, but they try to settle down on the ground, and then they will try to become a flower-like structure, and they will bud off, and then become a bigger jellyfish. And by that time, they have a little bit of ability to swim along the current and to find something to eat. So my question for you is, what kind of thing that jellyfish actually eat in their daily life? So for the jellyfish, they actually try to use their tentacles, because they have a lot of tentacles around their body, be it underneath their bell, which is like a bowl-shaped structure on the top of the body. And they use those stinging cells on the tentacles in order to attack some of the animals, like the plankton that we showed you just now. And then they try to sting those animals, and they try to use the tentacles to bring all the food to their mouths so that they can have nutrients. And sometimes, because jellyfish is so big, they sometimes can actually house fishes, which sometimes become their food and their meal as well. Yeah. So for jellyfish, they will stay they will remain their whole structure, the body structure, as well as their the behavior for the whole life. And usually their lifespan would be less than a year, but they try to stay on the top of the water sometimes so that they can have more energy, because sometimes some phytoplankton, which have pigments on their body, can help those jellyfish to do photosynthesis, to carry out photosynthesis in order to get more energy and get more oxygen. So this is one of the jellyfish that we have here in Canada. And I'm going to play a game with you, because some of the planktons cannot remain their whole same body structure throughout their lifetime. So I want to show you some of the photos, and I want you to guess what kind of animals would they become after growing bigger and bigger. And there's a tips for you. These kind of animals are actually looks familiarized with yourself as well. So try to take a look at the pictures and tell me what are those. Bear with me for a second. All right, so back to the jellyfish, and then we have other thing for you to take a look. So this is the photo that I have searched online, and I found it really, really, really interesting, because this is one of the plants that we can see around the ocean. And what kind of animals would they become after they grow bigger and bigger and undergo molding process? Some of you say shrimp, some of you say lobster, some of you say just plankton, ooh, dragonfly, krill. And for the answer is actually a crab. So for crab, actually they have their plankton stage for months, and then they have the molding process, and then they will grow bigger and bigger, where they will try to change their outlook, they change their outer shell in order to grow bigger. So actually for my little kind of online research, I just found out that one of the coolest thing about those crabs is that they start off as a very tiny plankton, but they remain as the plankton stage for 2 or 4 months. And for king crabs, they can grow from just a very little plankton and grow into something like this big. And they will try to dive into deeper water and try to stay there with their whole communities and try to get nutrients that are left over from sharks as well. So they are very, very interesting to know. And they have a very, it's kind of difficult or interesting for us to imagine how small it is when it starts off, and it will go bigger and bigger and become this size here. For us, for the indigenous people, or even for people around the world to consume it. So it's very interesting for me as well. So the next one that I would like to show you is another kind of plankton that I want you to guess what are these. Let me check. All right, so back to the crab, it's so cute. And this one, there will be tips for you. I want you to guess what are those plantains. Ooh, clam, jellyfish, clam. Yeah, so there's a tip underneath that photo that Manila clam. So it will become a clam that we usually have in our meal. So they are very tiny again. They have the size of a fingernail, and then they will go bigger and bigger. And some of the animals like stingray or even other kind of sharks, they might eat those clams as food. Well done, everyone. And the next one. This one is a bit difficult for us, but I'm sure you can guess. Some try to guess by looking at the feature. Human. Any other answer? What are those when they become bigger and bigger? Jellyfish. All right. Lobster, water bear, good guess. So what would it become is starfish. So starfish, when they're larva stage, they're actually plankton as well. Ooh. So they would try to, if you take a look at the photo a little bit, you can see it trying to develop some kind of arms when they're in the larval stage, and they try to get nutrients around, and they will try to develop arms, the tentacles, and also different cells in order to let them to really know how to become the sea stars that we know. It's very interesting. So well done all of you, because some of you actually guessed it correctly. And yeah, these are the photo slide that I have for you as a little game. But why do we have to learn about plantains, and what are the importance of them is the thing that we need to focus on. Because for plantains, they're actually saving our life every day, and they're very essential for us. So I want you to take a 2 deep breaths together. So 1, 2. So you know what? For 2 deep breaths that you just took, one of them, for the oxygen inside, they're actually produced by those like 2 plantains here. So what they do is, some of the phytoplankton that I showed you just now have green pigments or even yellow pigments on it, which they are actually algae, and also they are actually pigments on their body. So they help to carry out photosynthesis, where the pigments help to absorb sunlight and turn them into oxygen and energy for the plankton to live on. So because of that, we actually have a lot of oxygen appear in the water, and that's why we have oxygen inside the air after different kind of reaction, and that's why we have oxygen in our daily life to live in. So 50% of the oxygen is actually produced by those planktons. And because of the planktons, they're actually the base of the food chain. So what they do is they actually become the food of some kind of animals like fish or even bigger plankton. And fish is eaten by sharks or seabirds, and also a human are actually one of the predators of those fish. And as a result, we have a food chain from plankton, from fish, from sharks, or from fish to human or to seabirds. So we have food chain right there, and also the energy will pass from those plankton to the fish, and eventually to human, to us as well. So we actually get energy from those plankton because they are the bottom of the food chain. So some of you actually say, yeah, they are actually from they are at the bottom of the food chain, and that is correct. Yeah, so that's why plankton is actually saving our life, because oxygen is something that we need every day, and they're actually like a factory. They're trying to generate as much oxygen as they can in order to provide us with the essential things that we need. And they are actually the energy source as well, because of photosynthesis or because of itself, they're actually a food source. So we do have energy from the plankton. So that's why it's very important for us to really study about the planktons and know how to preserve or conserve them. Yeah, and some of you actually say blue whales and also whale sharks are actually consumers of those plankton. And that's right, because the whale sharks are actually try to intake a large amount of water, like tons of waters every day, just to filter off those plankton as food. So it's very important for the whale sharks and also the blue whale as well. All right, so after that, we know about importance. It's time for us to know the threats that those planktons are facing. So I'm going to show you another picture that I really want you to take a look. Right. So this is a YouTube video that I have taken a look before, and this is a krill. What's happened to this krill is that if you see the green dots around that animal, you are actually looking at some microplastics. So microplastics are actually plastics that are broken down into smaller and smaller pieces, or they are actually coming from your household unit as well. So those microplastics will actually enter the drain of the whole of your household, and then they will follow water current and go to the wastewater treatment plants. However, those wastewater treatment plants do not have the advanced technology to filter off those microplastics. And as a result, those microplastics will enter the ocean, and the planktons inside the ocean may actually consume it because they mistake those microplastics as food. So as a result, there is microplastic inside plankton's body. So when you take a look or you try to think of the food chain that we mentioned before, those plankton will be eaten by fish. And that's why fish got microplastic in their body. And after that, for those human or seabirds or even sharks which will eat all those planktons or the fish, they actually get microplastics as well. So that's why when you take a look at the news nowadays, you will see there's research telling people that we have microplastic in our drinking water, in our feces, and even around our in our daily life, including air as well. So now it's very important for us to really think of why and how should we conserve the environment, including those tiny bits of microscopic organisms here.
But for Nicole, before we go on to the plastics and the microplastics, is this a good time for the students to ask you questions about some of those animals that they saw? Because those were extremely fascinating. And so if you guys have questions, would you like about what you just saw, some of the plankton and some of those food chain questions, if you'd like to add them in right now, we can ask Nicole for maybe 4 questions.
Yeah. Elise and Averly are wondering if fish have plankton in them.
Oh, that's a very good question. It depends on species. As I know, some of the species might have the plankton sticking on their body in order to help them to get more energy or nutrients. So it depends on species.
Actually, this is a scientific question. Do you know what kind of plankton SpongeBob is? Because I think he is big time.
For that one, I'm not sure too, but for my guess, it could be like some copy pots, I guess.
Yeah. So we know that whale sharks eat plankton. So how long can whale sharks grow? And Tristan, we have a whole session coming up in a couple of weeks on whale sharks with a diver.
Oh, I would love to join those sessions as well. So for whale sharks, they can grow up to 10 meters long. So they are very unique because they have spot on the body, which for different individuals, they have unique spot on them. So it's very easy for the scientists to notice or try to identify them.
Cool. And how big is krill?
How big is krill? So for krill, if you take a look at my fingernail here, it would be the size of my fingernails or even smaller. So for some stronger one, they could grow even bigger, but usually it's like the size of my fingernail, like I think less than 1 centimeter.
And J.O. Hewlett wonders, what is the most common type of plankton? He put it in the question and answer section.
Oh, that's a really good question. So for phytoplankton, usually there is kind of phytoplankton called diatoms, which they are actually singular cells. So they usually have a lot of pigments called chlorophyll on their body in order to carry out photosynthesis. So an other kind of plankton that we have is called copepod, which is part of the zooplankton. You can treat it as kind of an animals as well. So they're everywhere in the ocean. And let me give you some additional information about that. When I was in Hong Kong, I tried to conduct a citizen science program where students can actually try to get all those plankton samples. And when we try to take a look at all the samples, there are a lot of copepod inside, just like the ones that I showed you with the 2 antennas, like antlers.
Excellent. Okay, so we said 4, but we'll do one more question from Evie. What do krill eat?
Ooh. Krill, like some of the zooplankton, they actually consume those phytoplankton, which they cannot move very easily. So those zooplankton, they would try to move around with their very tiny, small ability of swimming, and then try to prey on those phytoplankton in order to get energy.
Awesome. Just a time reminder, Nicole, we're going to go to another 15 minutes. Okay, so we'll have another 15 minutes.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Millie. And for just now, we talk about there's actually microplastic inside those plankton, and they will just accumulate along the food chain, and so that fish, and also for human, for seabirds, and also for sharks, they do have microplastic in their body, and also around the water around them as well. So it's very important for us to really think of what's our role for the environment. So I do have some recommendations for all of you to try together. So because the microplastic starts from us for a human, no matter you're in the household unit or even when you're going outdoor and play, we left a lot of rubbish and even microplastics as well. So those microplastics, if you remember, they actually come from larger pieces of plastic or even product that we use every day. So it's time for us to really take a look at the products that we have and try to take a look at the ingredients to see if there's any microplastic ingredients inside your products. So those microplastic usually happens to be in hair wash, or even shampoo, body scrub, and even toothpaste as well. So after this lesson, I really encourage you to really take a look at the ingredients or the product information and try to identify those microplastic. They usually start with polyethylene because plastic are actually synthesized, and they are compounds together. They're grouped together by a lot of elements. So that's why you can see all the microplastics starts with poly. So you can try to take a look at those products. And then for another option that we can try is to reduce your use of single-use plastics, because we only use single-use plastic every time for 8 to 10 seconds and you just throw it away. And it actually causes a very big trouble to the environment. So what I do is actually I will try to bring my water bottle every day. I will try to bring my utensils for lunch, as well as I try to use my own bag to do grocery shopping as well. So these are the things that you can actually try to help the environment by reducing your plastic use. And for another one is that you try to tell your friends about what have you learned today about plantains and also microplastics. So I have done something really cool in order to tell or try to convey the message to my friends and family and even the little kids that I work with. So I made those things like a little starfish notice or a little reminder for my friends and family. I try to draw in it. I try to really make some try to make some plantain related animals, so that I try to write something at the back and try to remind my friends and family to really try to reduce the use of plastic and try to learn more about the science. And the last thing that I want you to try is I encourage all of you to really learn more about science, because we have a lot of things to learn about the ocean, and we only know about 5% of the ocean. So now, because we are all here on the online learning platform, and then also we try to stay home for a little bit, I do recommend all of you to try to use some of your spare time to look for information about plankton and also other animals. So we do have an online learning platform at education.ocean.org, and you will see there's a lot of games, there will be a lot of crafts ideas, as well as some information about whale sharks, or even krill, as well as some Arctic animals. Like at the back, we have a polar bear, as well as we have sea lions everywhere. Do try to access to those platforms and learn more about it. And we do have a YouTube channel as well. So if you would like to, you can actually try to go online and watch some videos by yourself. They're very useful, and sometimes actually when I am off work, I usually go back to the YouTube channel and try to take a look at more information that I can have. Yeah, so these are the recommendations that I have for you, and I do really hope that you enjoyed today's lesson. And if you have any questions, feel free to type into the box that I can answer them for you.
Ooh. Yeah, so we have, this was very fun. Thank you so much. And I see that a lot of people mentioned that, you know, recycling isn't always the answer, but it's it can help. But I think what they're saying is to be not using plastic. So thank you very much. And thanks everyone. Nicole's going to be back at, for Arctic adaptations at 2:15 Central, 3:15 Eastern. So we'll be able to connect and learn about some Arctic animals. And yet we're done for now, Tristan, because in a few minutes, we're going to be connecting to the family circus, where you can learn some circus acts you can do at home. I'll put those websites up again. It's education.ocean.org and also oceans.org.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Nicole. Really appreciate it. That was really wonderful.
You're amazing, Nicole. And what impresses me is how smart and how the students were thinking as they were going along, and we really appreciate that.
Yeah, I like it so much too. Like I can instantly see all those response, and yeah, they actually have a lot of knowledge about plankton too. So I really happy about that.
So thank you so much, guys, and we'll see you in, they were excellent, and you're an excellent teacher, Nicole. We'll see you a little bit later this afternoon, and maybe somebody can come back and learn about Arctic animal adaptations.
Yeah,
which is
sure.
awesome. So thank you so much, and we'll